Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play ChäoS. I believe this should be part 45. Wanna say that seems right? Let me go ahead and get my timer up and ready to go. And we can go ahead and pick up where we left off last time. Now that it was November, the sun seemed to set much earlier. When I headed home, okay, sure. From school with Remy, the sky was dyed pale orange. The hitherto silent Remy abruptly apologized to me. It had been a while since I'd last gone home with Remy like this. I had sincerely hoped she'd returned. She'd said, "Let's go home together," to me today. Although, since we'd only gone back together 2 times before, to begin with, I'd secretly feared she would act as if nothing had ever happened, but it wasn't that way at all. Oh yes, Shogun got hurt, of course, of course. Though I hadn't asked her, Remy told me about it without being prompted. Yeah? I assumed that was supposed to be a voice line, but it wasn't. But to be perfectly honest, Remy's words were mostly failing to enter my head now. The bandage on Nanami's wrist I'd seen at noon. It had burned itself into my eyes and wouldn't go away. No. Well, main character's not, of course. In the end, I had failed to call to Nanami after seeing it. I'd become scared of calling out to her. Even though Nanami was my little sister, even though I was Nanami's big brother, I hadn't quite understood who she was at that time. The nurse had said Nanami wasn't injured. The hand Shogun sent to my base had disappeared from my refrigerator. It was supposed to have been a delusion. Yet, why had Nanami worn a bandage wrapped around her right wrist today? Could it simply be that I was overthinking things and the reason behind it was something as minor as a burn or a bug bite? I feel like that's a big-ass bandage for just a bug bite, so I don't think that's the case. A burn I can potentially see. Yes, of course, that was the most likely answer of all. But I was still scared to find out. Despite the fact that I hadn't been able to save Nanami, I went on dawdling like this and didn't make any attempt to talk to her. I truly was the worst brother ever. When I looked at Remy, she was wilting. Yeah, sorry about that. We weren't really listening to anything you were saying. After waffling for a bit, I nodded, upon which Remy's pointer finger bored into my cheek. Ugh. Your nails. It hurts when your nails dig in, you know. Remy murmured her usual phrase upon finally stopping her cheek poking. Yes, Remy always used those words to show her concern for me. Like a big sister or my guardian, Remy had quite a meddlesome personality. Well, it was already as plain as the nose on my face from how she was nice enough to go along with a creepy otaku like me. I was grateful for how she worried about me. Until now, if I'd been worried about something, all I could do was either bear it up myself or post it anonymously at Shannon. Maybe I should talked to her about Nanami. But when I spoke to her about D-swords before, Rimi hadn't believed a word of it. She'd shown the natural reaction of a person who operated by common sense. Which was why, if I brought it up this time, the likely result was her either put off, or her being put off, or brushing it off with a laugh. If so, there wouldn't be any point in asking her advice. That was fine as long as Rimi was with me. It seemed like it'd be a better idea to ask Kozapi or Senna about this issue. I'm probably right about that. Which does admittedly somewhat beg the question that apparently Kozapi never, sensed that we were feeling off. Presumably, we had classes after we saw the bandage on Nanami's hand. And I'm assuming we actually went to those classes, and that Kozapi was potentially in at least one of them, if not all of them, depending upon exactly how class schedules work in Japan. So I would have expected Kozapi to have potentially felt that something was wrong and basically used her telepathy-like ability for us to hold a conversation about what happened. But I guess it never happened because it wasn't mentioned at all. Rimi muttered in amazement the instant she set foot in my base. For all that, I didn't really get why she was smiling so happily. If you're gonna go on about it that much, you could clean up for me. Sighing, I turned on my PC.
ちょっと帰ってくるなりパソコン？友達が来てるんだから少しはおもてなししてあげようっていう気持ちにはならないのかな?
Rimi, we don't really have a whole lot to offer in terms of hospitality. We've got, since this is the main character, we have a couple of bottles of Coca-Cola, or the knockoff brand, rather, potentially for the series here, in our little mini fridge, and maybe some snacks. And when I say bottles or cans, I don't recall which ones we had. I see a can there on those boxes, but I think in the past when we've seen what's in our fridge, it's been bottles.
ねえ、お話ししようよ。
Rimi made a reckless demand as she sat on the sofa. I think we did red last time, so let's do a green. If I had a mano a mano conversation with a 3D girl, I'd soon run out of things to talk about. Well, I'd gotten much more used to it due to the recent increase in how many opportunities I had to speak with Rimi. I still wouldn't last 5 minutes. Besides, my head was full of Nanami right now, and I was very much not in the mood to have a lighthearted conversation. That was why it ended up seeming like I was ignoring Rimi. Painfully aware of my own uselessness, I sat down in my chair. In delusion time. What's Rimi gonna do to get our attention? I sensed Rimi shifting behind me. The sound of her clothes rustling drew nearer.
だから、無視しないでよ。
Before I had time to turn around, she embraced me from behind. I smelled her tender, floral scent. Her soft chest pressed against my back.
寂しいよ。そういうことされると。
Apparently, I had retreated from reality again and woven myself a convenient delusion. When I thought of it that way, my sense of hollowness grew stronger than my lust, and I couldn't even enjoy it as a daydream. Instead of pouncing on her, I took advantage of the fact that it was all delusionary, and I could speak freely here to confront her with how I honestly felt.
僕だって寂しかった。辛かったんだ。リミがこの1週間 全然連絡くれなくて。
Rimi's movements were conveyed directly to me from my back. Each time she took a breath, her chest shifted up and down minutely. It was only to be expected, but it served to remind me she was living.
ごめん。一緒にいてあげられなくてごめん。
Rimi's arms went tighter and tighter around me.
私の中でもまだ迷いがあって、どうしたらいいかわからなくて、ちょっと考えてみようと思って。
は？
What had she felt torn about? What in the world was she talking about?
そもそも私、タクと一緒にいていいのかなとか、このままの関係を続けるべきなのかなとか。
I realize that this is, of course, our character's delusions. But what kind of relationship? Because it's literally just a friendship, and it's honestly kind of comes across a little bit more one-sided. If I'm being honest.
でもね、このままじゃきっとダメなんだ。それじゃ何も救えない。ねえ、タク。私が最初に願ったのはさ、一つだけだった。なのにどうして人は、私は際限なく望み続けちゃうんだろうね。あの空を見つけた時に、私は。
I didn't understand what Rimi was saying. I couldn't come up with a reply. Silence descended. Close by my ear, I heard the faint sound of Rimi breathing. It would be strange if the denouement didn't come soon. But nothing happened as silence closed in around us. Could it be that this wasn't a delusion? The instant I realized that, tension shot through my body all at once. In reality, Rimi was embracing me, pressed up to me without a gap between us that almost sent my reason flying away. I had a feeling that Rimi would forgive me even if I went ahead and pounced on her. I gulped in a breath and...
今の何？
As though startled, Rimi jumped up away from me, the soft sensation of her vanished. A complex feeling spread within me, partly a sense of having been saved, partly regret. No, more than that, Rimi had heard Sarah's new message voice. This was fairly humiliating. When I opened my email client, I had 3 messages from Grimm telling me to come to our chat room. Now that he'd mentioned it, I hadn't chatted with Grimm at all lately, even though we'd met up online practically every day in the past. Did we meet up with him? I honestly don't recall. I mean, we chatted, yeah, but I don't recall ever any dialogue indicating that we actually played the game with him. Because I'd also held back on playing ESO, it had probably been close to 10 days since we'd last spoken. Damn, really? Been 10 days? See, what up? Hey, Nightheart, I've been waiting for you. There's a new mob gen. Or moob gen? I don't know. What are you saying? Too lazy to copy and paste ASCII art. New gen, new gen. Oh. I guess he typed too quickly, basically. How did new gen end up as mob gen? New generation, new gen, boob slash boob gen, moob gen. It makes sense if you think about it. More importantly, the 7th incident. Okay. I'm trying to recall if we... I believe last part, I mean, it's been like a week now since I've recorded, so I'm actually sort of struggling to remember. I think, yeah, the last time we recorded, there was something about boobs being involved in the new gen thing, like they were cut off or some shit. I don't recall.
どうしたの？
Noticing me catch my breath, Rimi got up and walked over. She peered at the PC monitor from behind me.
第7の事件。
It had happened again. New Gen again. How long would it continue? Would I be the next to get killed? The one after that?
タク、気にすることないよ。
Do we really, Remy? Do we really?
何も怖いことなんてない。
And your evidence for that is what?
タクは狙われたりなんかしない。
That doesn't mean anything. The reality is, the New Gen incidents could just as easily be explained as you just got a psycho who changes up how they kill people. And so they're not targeting anybody explicitly, which would mean that we very easily could be the next to be killed in that scenario. You know?
全部タクの被害妄想。
Sure, it might be paranoia. You know, we definitely suffer from that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're safe, even if somebody's not deliberately targeting us. Baseless words of comfort. That won't soothe my heart, Remy. That aside, Grimm was practically the New Gen case publicist. He reported every little thing to me. Now, too, he went out of his way to paste in multiple links to news sites and so forth. Apparently, he was telling me to take a look at them. I reluctantly clicked his links and bit down hard on my lip. Let's see, 7th New Gen incident DQN puzzle. At around 4:50 on the morning of the 4th, 3 male corpses deemed to have been murdered by an unidentified person were discovered at one of the iron poles along the railroad tracks in the Shibuya district of Tokyo. The victims are Fujita Kohei, unemployed, 19, Anzawa Saburo, a college student, 20, and Takagi Ryo, a part-timer, 19. According to the police investigation, the 3 dead bodies were each severed in half at the, I assume that's at the torso. Additionally, they were stated that the severance wounds not include the type of sharp lacerations that, sharp lacerations one would expect to see in cuts made by a type of blade. Furthermore, their upper bodies and lower bodies were switched with one another and sewn back together with a sturdy thread. I'm not quite seeing what the hell Grimm was talking about with the Moob Gen, but whatever. I mean, I was expecting it to potentially have some relevance to this incident, but yeah, whatever. Wounds that could be read as D, Q, and N were marked into their respective foreheads, and the police are regarding this as a potential message of some sort from the criminal as they continue their investigation. At the vast anonymous online message board 8chan, someone leaked photographs of the crime scene prior to the reports about the incident, and it was rapidly certified as the 7th New Gen Madness, aka New Gen case. It was dubbed the DQN puzzle because of how the victims' upper and lower bodies had been recompiled. On a related note at 8chan, DQN is used to mean people lacking social common sense, such as juvenile delinquents, slackers, gangsters, etc. With respect to the sequence of New Gen cases, the victims' families are attempting to take legal action against some of the more morally offensive posts that have appeared on 8chan, resulting in an online debate about the pros and cons of doing so. Posted at 1527 Zakozako. Related articles. Let's see, we got US TV station UBC interviews Yuri Brightman. 1,000 plus calls flood in with questions for Psychic Boy. Did the boy's body give off light? Mysterious eyewitness testimony contradicts TV footage. Japan's bogus Psychic Boy hits the top of the YouTube rankings, and Shibuya earthquake, 188 fatalities, 367 wounded. See, another Moob Gen. Okay, yeah, just for whatever reason, they've taken to calling it Moob Gen, which is just, well, stupid, because, you know, it would make sense if any of the cases had some relevance to it. And, you know, especially if it was a common occurrence across the various incidents, but there isn't any common occurrence regarding boobs across the incidents. So, oh, whatever. Wait, LOL, DQN delinquent? LOL. Of course, it's got nothing to do with other cases. Haha. LOL. Stupid police. You trying to say it's one of us delinquent haters? With their lower bodies switched up, it really makes it like a puzzle with corpses. I'm gonna trade in my upper half for some studs. Esper Nishijo needs to get a move on and pin down the criminal. Haha. Let's see. We got the group dive, the pregnant man, the staking, vampire house, brainless, delicious hand, and DQ and puzzle. Number 8 is to be continued.
今日午前4時50分頃、東京都渋谷区の線路沿いで男性3人の他殺死体が鉄柱に吊り下げられているのを通りかかった新聞販売員の男性が発見しました。
I'm going to go on a limb and say that that was just, I believe that was literally just repeating the first paragraph of the article we read.
警察の調べによりますと、殺されたのはいずれも渋谷区に住む無職藤田康平さん、大学生の安沢三郎さん、とび職の高木亮さんの3人です。
Yeah, literally repeating word for word the article.
3人とも胴体の部分が切断され、それぞれの上半身と下半身が別々に入れ替えられて糸で縫合されていました。
Okay, a little bit of paraphrasing here.
3人の額にはそれぞれ謎の傷がつけられており、警察では犯人からのメッセージではないかとみて調べています。渋谷では2ヶ月ほど前から猟奇殺人事件が頻発しており、警察では今回の事件も同一犯による犯行の可能性が高いとみて捜査を続けています。
The news clip I watched at the very end showed facial photographs of the 3 victims. I remembered seeing those faces.
あいつらだ。
知ってるの？
昨日僕に絡んできた。
Well, ain't that an interesting development? I'd offered up my wallet, but they'd used violence anyway. And I lost consciousness, and Kozapi was there when I came to. The 3 of them had lain collapsed, covered in blood. I took my wallet out of my pocket and stared at it intently. When I revived, Kozapi had been carrying it, and she'd given it back to me. Maybe the one who killed those 3 was. I mean, it could be. No, that's wrong. At the time when I last saw their faces, they'd certainly been pummeled and they were blood-soaked, but their torsos hadn't been sliced in half or anything. Hey, nothing's stopping Kozapi from deciding to go and do it later. They'd been murdered after Kozapi and I'd left the scene. And technically, there's nothing stopping Kozapi from doing it after all of you separated. It had to be Shogun. That old geezer was challenging me. Damn it. How far was he planning to drive me into a psychological corner? It felt like I was about to throw up. My stomach ached sharply and I pressed a hand against my belly. Was I next? This time, would I be the one to die?
終了。
Rimi's hand, reaching out from behind me, pressed the power button on the monitor. The screen went pitch black.
落ち着いて。気にすることないよ。ただの偶然だって、きっと。
Oh yeah, totally. Just a coincidence. The guys who tried to beat actually not tried, successfully beat the crap out of us ended up getting severed in half and their bodies, or their lower bodies switched around. How could Rimi be so carefree? It was impossible for so many coincidences to pile up like this. I gotta agree on that.
それより、お腹空いちゃった。
We got snacks. There's no real food, just snacks.
ねえ、私が行きつけのお店があるんだけど、そこにご飯食べに行かない？
Oh, okay, yes. Main character is definitely able to go and actually eat at a restaurant.
安くて美味しいんだよ。私が保証する。
It is way too public a place for him.
まあ、お客さんはおじさんが多いから、私みたいのが一人で行くのはちょっと恥ずかしいけどね。あ、それと、駅の中に入らなくちゃいけないんだった。渋谷駅の構内にあるから。ちなみに、山手線内回りと外回りのホーム、どっちにもあるんだけど、私は断然内回りの方が好き。
Dinner. I really wasn't going to be able to work up an appetite. It felt like someone was holding a knife to my throat. That sensation, I'd been told, I can kill you whenever I like. Let me go already. What are you saying? I've done what that's so wrong. I'm completely sick of this stuff. Okay, so my timer has like 5 minutes left, but we just transitioned to a brand new scene. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cut this episode a little bit on the short side, because otherwise it's just we're either going to not finish this little scene here by the time it would have gone off, or it would just have to be a really long part, which I'm not looking forward to doing, because I obviously still need to go and record the next part as well, because I typically record back to back. So that'll be it for this part. I will see you all next time. A quick reminder that I do have a Patreon as well as a Streamlabs donation link down below in the description. If you find yourself enjoying this series or any other series on the channel and you wish to help support the channel so I can continue to bring you all this content, those are the two best ways to support the channel. Down in the description, you will also find a link to a Discord, or rather my Discord server. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on with the channel, I do also recommend that you join that. That is my go-to place for posting about any potential interruptions to my recording schedule, as well as I do have it set up to post a link to the videos when they go live in there, so that if for whatever reason YouTube decides it doesn't actually want to notify people, which it does do at times, or even sometimes just be very slow to notify people, Discord is a good way to also make sure that you're up to date on content. So I will see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.